Day 2 of Arizona Cardinals Training Camp 2023.
We are sitting here in the media room.
Yes,
we're right behind the podium. This is where Jonathan Gannon spoke earlier today. We'll talk to DJ Humphries coming up in a bit. Obviously a big day. Budda Baker, he ain't going anywhere. He's staying here. He gets his contract extension. And that was the big story coming out of here today, right?
Yeah, it is. And that was the exciting thing because everybody's wondering about what's going on with Budda, right? He said last year, I guess in the offseason, make me the highest paid safety or trade me, one or the other. In the spring, he kind of scrubbed his Instagram stuff like Kyler did a year ago. And then, allegedly today, they came up with a plan for $2.4 million in bonuses and incentives, and we're still waiting to see what that breakdown is of those. A $300,000 signing bonus. He's got 2 years left on this contract, so $13.1 million this year, $14.2 next year. That's not guaranteed, but we'll hear later on what that contract looks like.
There's been so much change that has happened here since the Cliff departure and contract roster overhaul and all of this stuff. You need to keep the heart and soul of your team.
Absolutely.
DeAndre Hopkins, you know, he was going to go do his thing regardless, but Budda is the heart and soul of this organization here. You got to move heaven and earth to make him happy to keep him here. I don't care if the short-term outlook looks extremely bleak for this football team, because it does. It is going to be a rough football season. But you got to keep him here. Fan favorite. He's the locker room leader, and as we saw in Hard Knocks, he is the voice within that room.
He's the heartbeat of this team. Listen, he as Gannon told us earlier today, as he goes, the team goes, right? Yep. He is the enthusiasm, the energy, the excitement of this football team. He said, we point to him on game film to say, you need to play like that guy.
How funny was it yesterday when Zaven Collins is saying, walking out getting ready for practice, I get punched in the stomach. I'm looking over and it's Budda. You ready to go, man? Just that excited to get back out on the field and play the game that he loves. Awesome news that he's going to be here. It's big for a team that is trying to rebuild. Yes. On the fly, because look, you got Kyler Murray on the last year of his rookie deal. He's going into this massive contract after this coming season. Typically, you'd like to see your roster in a place where they're competing and contending, where you're on a rookie deal still. That's not the case. They're going to be horrific this year. No, I mean, there's no way to make this all sunshine and rainbows. It is going to be a bad year. It's a year to fix all the wrongs and hopefully get this roster into a place where they can be, I'd say realistically, in the 7, 8, 9 win range next year.
Next year, yeah.
And then try to build off of that. Yeah. But this is all about fixing. Listen, Steve Kine left, as we all know, left a lot, and I mean a lot of issues with contracts, rosters, just everything in the building, honestly. And
it's true.
It's gonna be a long year.
No, it is. USA Today gave them 2 wins the other day. They came out with their predictions for NFL teams. Cardinals 2-15. I think Vegas has them at 5.5, the over/under on wins this year. I'm guessing maybe 4, 3 or 4 wins. It's not going to be a pretty year. The offensive line is questionable again, right? We don't know. Kelvin Beachum comes back. Paris Johnson comes in as a tackle, as their first round pick. DJ Humphries is back. Will Hernandez. We don't know who the center's going to be. The defensive line is a question. Linebackers is a question mark. Running backs, it's James Conner and Keontae Ingram and Corey Clement, and that's about it. Receivers, who knows? Defensive backs, thank God you have Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker, because the question mark at cornerback again, right?
Well, Isaiah Simmons is now playing
Isaiah Simmons
this year. Yeah. You have Zaven Collins moving to a different position. Yeah. That's what's tough, and obviously, Jonathan Gannon and his new staff, they're not beholden to what the previous staff, where they played guys and slotted guys in.
Yeah.
But it is difficult, and I feel for Cardinals fans when you're looking, it seems like this team is never progressing because some of these guys are playing 3 positions in 4 years. How are you ever supposed to succeed in any role outside of football, anything in life, in your job, whatever you do? If you're constantly changing, you learn one thing and then, okay, let's forget everything you just learned. Yeah. We're going to do something totally different.
Yeah, fair enough.
Zaven Collins was being bred to be the Mike linebacker.
Yep. He's going to be the stud inside, yep.
You move Isaiah, who's supposed to be this, that, and the other, and now he's going to somewhat be he's going to be a backup or a guy coming in, when different personnel groups.
Colin, there were people last year calling Isaiah a bust. all right, a draft bust. I mean, we don't even know yet because he's jumped around to all different positions. He was kind of that jack of all trades at Clemson and played inside, outside, corner, safety, strong safety, nickel. And then we thought, okay, this guy's kind of the Swiss Army knife. Everybody described him as that during the draft that year. And then he came in here, they put him in inside linebacker. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not his strength. He can run. This guy is an athletic beast.
It's still hard to stomach the Hassan Reddick stuff from years ago because you
Yeah.
waste the first few years of figuring out what this player can be. Obviously, there's a transition from college football to the NFL.
Huge.
There's a massive learning curve that comes with that. When you play somebody out of their strong suit for years and then say, well, this isn't working.
Yeah. No, it's true.
You're never going to succeed.
No, and that's it. And that's the problem with this roster, with this team. It's constant turnover. You mentioned earlier the turmoil, constant turnover. Now we have a new head coach that's never been a head coach. We have an offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, never been an offensive coordinator, never called a play. We've got Nick Rollis. I was just watching him out there with the outside linebackers, defensive coordinator, never been a defensive coordinator. So we've got all these young guys in leadership positions here. Oh, Monty Ossenfort, the new GM, never been a GM, been an assistant, but never a GM. Calling the shots. So we've got all these guys in leadership roles that have never done this. And so how many games does this coaching staff cost this team? Which, let's be honest, it's a mediocre team. It's a mediocre roster in the first place. Sorry, Cardinal fans. But let's be honest about it. At best.
I was going to say, that's generous.
That's what I mean. And I know there's diehard Cardinal fans that are hoping for a Super Bowl. That's not going to happen if it does, I'll eat this microphone later on in the season. But we're talking about how many mistakes will be made as we learn to be a head coach or an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, a missed call, a missed challenge, a missed timeout. How many things will affect this team?
That's part of what all of this year is. I hate using the term throwaway year, but you got 2 picks.
That's right.
That could potentially be top 5, top 3 picks.
Yep.
There's somewhat of an incentive to, hey, we're just going to learn, and if it goes awry, so be it. We got a bunch of draft capital coming up this next year.
Yep.
But, for this new staff and, like you mentioned, all these first-year guys in these leadership roles, your franchise quarterback isn't going to be back for week 1.
That's right.
How soon he'll be back, we'll see.
Right.
You got Colt McCoy under center, so you're starting the season with a guy that has a drastically different skill set than your starting quarterback that's going to come back at some point within the season.
Yeah.
That's a lot in itself
to
figure out on the fly. They don't know Kyler Murray. They haven't been
That's right.
with him on the field. So you're kind of starting behind the 8 ball there. But again, half of their job early on is just trying to undo all the wrongs.
That's correct. You're right.
So it's an uphill battle to start. Obviously, they know what they were getting into when they signed on to the gig here.
Yeah.
But it's going to be an interesting season. You look at the Cardinals' schedule.
It's brutal.
They got no favors there.
If you're just joining us, we're here in the media room where Jonathan Gannon speaks. DJ Humphers will be here after practice this afternoon because by NFL rules, we can't show anything that's going on in the field. I apologize for that, Ed, but that was not our choice. We wanted to be out on the field with you, showing the team behind us. We cannot do that per NFL rules, anything online from us. So we're in here. We thought this was a good alternative where the coach speaks, players come out and talk to the media. But again, this is going to be one of those years, Colin, where it's a rebuild. And I know Jonathan Gannon cringed at that this spring when we were doing the mini camp, mandatory mini camp. I cringe when somebody says, I think it was Bob McManaman said it's a rebuild year. And he goes, I cringe at that word. Let's be honest. That's what this is, right? You're starting from scratch. You've gutted this roster for the most part, brought back what you could. There's a lot of new faces, new coaching staff, 2 holdovers from Cliff's staff. I was just talking to Rob Rodriguez, the outside linebacker coach, and he said he loves his staff. Like, these guys are open. We get along together. He goes, people think we're going to tank. He goes, we don't tank. He goes, we're going to play our hardest. We're going to play our guts out. He goes, I think we'll be a little more cagey and wiry than people think. But he knows, right? He knows what he's working with and what he has to deal with. So this is going to be one of those years you kind of need to get through to get to the draft when you've got your pick in the first round, could be a number 1 overall pick. You've got Houston Texans pick, which could be a number 1 overall pick. These 2 teams are not picked to be great. So the draft capital, I think they have 11 picks in the first 2 or 3 rounds.
And you look at the guys coming out too. Obviously, Caleb Williams is going to be the USC quarterback. Is going to be the presumable number 1.
Yep.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison, yeah.
Is going to be the top wide receiver coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals have a need for wide receiver.
Yes, they do.
So it's from that standpoint, it's a good draft at the top, at least. So you're just looking for light. Everybody knows this is a build towards the future, and so not going to make this year fun by any stretch of the imagination. But everybody, the team knows it. You know, Zaven Collins, James Conner, they were standing at this podium that we're sitting behind right now, and they were asked about the outside noise, and everybody saying how bad this Cardinals team may be this season. You know, all they can do is their job and put forth their best foot forward. But everybody talked about, listen, a culture change was needed here.
Yes.
We heard Gannon talk about energy and enthusiasm. That is what he's looking for. That stuff's infectious. That's something you can control bringing to the building every single day. That's why it's a big deal to have Budda Baker back and happy to be back.
And accountability. We've heard about accountability too, right? Guys, we're talking about, Zaven Collins talked about that in the spring. He's like, I walked into the first meeting, had a bowl of cereal in the morning, I was eating during the meeting, coach stopped the meeting and said, hey, why don't you come 5 minutes early, you can have your cereal and pay attention to the meeting. He said the next day he walked in, my number was up on the board, going, hey, let's change the way we do things, right? Let's change that. And I think that's refreshing. And Gannon said yesterday and today, we want to get better every day. Just get better. He's not talking about wins. He's not talking about Super Bowl. We just want to get better every day.
Accountability.
Yep.
Hey, it starts with, let's not commit a whole lot of penalties pre-snap.
How about that? Yeah.
That's been infectious in the wrong direction for the last several years.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man.
I know, right?
It's hard to...
Yes.
It's hard.
One a mini, but we're starting. It's 2023. Football's back. We're excited about that. The Cardinals start on August 11th, the Friday night game against the Denver Broncos, preseason game at 7 o'clock. That's going to be fun just to see with Sean Payton in Denver and Russell Wilson, and I'm guessing none of the starters will play anyway, but we get to see the Broncos again in a preseason game. That'd be fun.
Yeah, not too bad.
Your enthusiasm is...
I'm just looking at the start of the schedule, the first half, the first 9 games.
You look at the regular season. Yeah.
It's genuinely hard to find a win in the first 2 months of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's brutal. It's tough sledding.
I said hi to one of the security guards out on the field a few minutes ago, and he said, he just crossed his fingers, I'm hoping for the best.
Amen, brother.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you guys. We will be back with more throughout the season and more to come. So stick around. Arizona Cardinals in training camp at State Farm Stadium. And if you want tickets, go to azcardinals.com/camp ticks. And you got to have a digital ticket to get in. It's free. Parking is free. Concession stands are open. You can get in and out of the heat. We'll see you guys later.